Hey, if your kid is heading to college this fall and you think your job is done once you drop them off with a mini fridge and a hug, I need you to sit down. Why? Because of the housing part. That's just getting started. And most parents get absolutely blindsided by it. I know firsthand as I have 3 bonus daughters coursing through their college journeys. Here's the reality. On most campuses, less than 1/4 of students actually live in the dorms. The rest are out in the wild. Off-campus apartments, houses split 4 or 5 ways, maybe even 6 or 7. Leases with roommates they've only known for exactly 6 weeks. And parents are usually only involved for about 10 minutes of that process. The part where they have to hand over an account number, and that's the problem. That 10 minutes is where all the danger is. Let's talk about joint and several liability. Write that phrase down. It is the single most important legal term in a college lease, and almost nobody explains it to families before they sign. Now, I'm not an attorney, but here is what it means in plain English. If 4 kids sign one lease for $4,000 a month and one of them stops paying, the landlord doesn't go find that one kid and only bother them. The landlord can go after any one of the other 3 people for the full amount, not their quarter, the full $4,000 every month until it's paid. I have seen this happen. A kid drops out mid-semester, stops responding to texts, ghosts the group chat, and now 3 sets of parents are scrambling to cover rent for someone who isn't even in the state anymore. So rule number 1, everyone signs the lease. Not, my son said he's good for it. Not a verbal agreement between 19-year-olds. Every single person living in that unit needs to be on that legal document with their name in writing. If a roommate isn't willing to sign the lease, that's actually incredibly useful information. That tells you everything you need to know about whether they should be living there in the first place. In many cases, there are actually more people living in the house than the lease would allow. But that person or persons' contribution is needed to pay the rent. They too need to sign a separate agreement with the parties on the lease, or they could just bail with no consequences. Rule number 2. And parents hate hearing this. I know I did. Most landlords in college towns are going to require a parent or a guardian as a guarantor or a co-signer. Why? Because your 19-year-old has no credit history, no income, and no track record. From the landlord's perspective, they're a risk. So when you co-sign, understand what you're actually agreeing to. You are financially responsible for that lease, all of it, for the whole term. Even if your kid transfers school in November, even if they have a falling out with their roommates in March, you signed a legally binding contract and it does not care about teenage drama. Now, let's talk about what happens when someone leaves mid-lease, because this happens more than colleges want to admit. Maybe a student transfers, or maybe they get put on academic suspension. Maybe the situation is they just can't afford it anymore and disappear. Here's the thing, the lease does not care. The lease is for the unit, for the term, period. If someone leaves, the remaining roommates and their co-signing parents are still on the hook for that rent unless the lease specifically has a release clause, or unless the landlord agrees to release that room to someone new. Ask about this before you sign. Ask, what is the process if one roommate needs to leave the lease early? Is there a subletting clause? Is there a buyout option? If the landlord looks at you like you're speaking another language, that's your answer. Security deposits are their own circus. When 4 kids split one $2,000 deposit and it's time to move out, who decides how that money gets divided if there's damage? I've seen roommates fight over a broken microwave more viciously than some divorces I've watched. My advice? Get it in writing up front how the deposit will be split and returned, not in a group chat agreement. An actual document signed by everyone that says how much each person contributed and how disputes will be handled. Kind of uptight? Yes. Will it save you a screaming phone call in June? Also, yes. Document the move-in condition of that apartment like you were building a court case, because you might be. Photos, videos, timestamps, every wall, every appliance, every stain that was already there before your kid moved a single box in. Landlords in college towns see hundreds of tenants. They're not going to remember that the carpet was already stained in the corner of the bedroom. You need proof. You need it dated the day they get the keys. A few more things I want on your radar. Read the renewal clause. A lot of these leases have automatic renewal language, meaning if nobody gives written notice by a certain date, sometimes as early as December for a lease that doesn't end until August, it auto renews, and now your kid is locked in again without meaning to be. Check whose name is on the utilities. If it's just one roommate's name on the electric bill and that roommate skips town, guess who the electric company comes after? And get renter's insurance. It is criminally cheap. We're talking about somewhere in the ballpark of $20 to $50 a month, and it covers theft, some liability situations, and honestly, some peace of mind. And that's worth way more than the premium. Last thing, and this is the one I really want you to walk away with. Have your kid create a roommate agreement that is completely separate from the lease. Now, this isn't a legal document. It's a let's not destroy our friendship document. Who pays for what? What happens with overnight guests? Chore expectations. What happens if someone wants to break the lease early? Get it in writing, get everyone to sign it, and keep a copy. It will not stop every disaster, but it will stop at least half of them. And it puts everyone on the same page before the resentment starts building in month 3. And with that, get a real estate attorney with knowledge of the landlord-tenant laws of the area where your kid will rent to look everything over. You will be glad you did. Sending your kid off to school is emotional enough without a lease blowing up your finances a year later. Read everything. Ask uncomfortable questions before you sign, not after. And if you're looking at that lease and something in your gut says, this doesn't feel right, trust it. I have seen too many families learn this the hard way. Let's not make you one of them. I'm Crystal Hawkins-Syska, your real estate advisor, making real estate crystal clear.